scrum halves.
Yep.
I've got Tate McDermott, clear standout. I don't think we're telling anyone anything they don't know. 8 points better than the next best halfback. Jake Gordon, who is he the captain of the Tars again this year?
Yep, captain Tars.
Yeah. So, I mean, he should play every minute. I don't think his competition's very close to take minutes off him either. And then Aaron Smith, he's obviously the best, if maybe arguably the second best, probably one of the best halfbacks of all time, number one. But I just remember a couple of years ago, he had about a 39 average, and he just blew the fantasy season away as well. So not only is he actually ranked third on average, but he's actually got growth in his game beyond that as well, which I think really pushes him up there. And then the other one that I would just put a slight mention to, despite being out for the first 4 weeks or so, has got to be TJ Paranara as well. 42 average in a couple of years ago when he played last, which it puts him up there as the second overall halfback if he can reproduce that kind of form as well.
Yeah, great. And he, as I mentioned, I mean, obviously Harry, we were talking about this before, Rev, just putting out in the universe a player that's in a fantasy team. If you keep putting his name out, eventually it'll come good. So Harry's hoping that Richie Wanger and TJ Paranara just come back to play much sooner rather than later. But I mean, TJ, what we definitely said in the preseason was, they don't have Beauden Barrett at 10. So there's times they've thrown TJ in at 10 before, and he really, if he wasn't carrying the team before, he would be carrying the team now. So he's going to see it as an opportunity to play 9 and 10, I think. Doesn't matter who's next to him. He's going to do a lot more ball playing, so it will be very good. But, all right, well, let's move on to, before we let Rev start talking about Tate McDermott for the next 10 minutes, let's move on to fly halves. So, Rev, do you want to take us through the fly halves? Again, pretty easy choice at the top choice.
Absolutely. James O'Connor. We're going the Reds combo, aren't we, surely? Tate and James. Look, James ranks highly, but of course, Richie Wanger is unparalleled. He's just a freak. I don't think if there's a person, that you could choose to have in your team and they're guaranteed to play, he just sticks out so clearly because you see flashbacks every time you think of his name of just beating defenders with ease, sort of dancing down sidelines. He's actually improved his goal kicking a lot too, which helps a lot for his score because he, used to put a fair few off to the side. And I think also just with the rated tries that Crusaders score, it's pretty handy having, someone be able to knock over at least 80% of their kicks. But between Richie, James O'Connor and Josh Ioane, you got some really nice, exciting options there.
This is a big call for Josh Ioane to be the third fly half here, guys.
I didn't type the list. I'm reading.
Cargie, wow. Okay, did you pick up Josh Ioane? Cargie, can you please tell us now?
I did not. But he was the third pick. I wanted to. He was the third pick 10 in our draft. So we didn't give Rev. I'm not sure where he went in Revs, but
he was our fourth pick because we had Beauden Barrett in there above, and again he's a bit of a risky option because he's had some awesome seasons in previous years. He's also done a lot of nice play, but probably not as well in the fantasy side compared to your players like Richie. So, look, I've got no issue with Josh Ioane being in there, but I'd probably say him in the same breath as your Beauden Barretts and nearly in the same breath as your Noel Lolosios as well. Players that, if they get a lot of minutes, should play quite well. But again, it's that drop down. Richie is just such a clear and away number one pick that if you don't end up with him and no one else is taking a fly off, you can sort of leave them for a little bit.
Interestingly for me, Richie Wanger had his best season ever on average last year. 56 average was the highest he's ever been. He had a couple of seasons at 54 before that. And Jordy Barrett, where he slots in, before he left to Japan, he actually had a 49-point average. So that puts him 16 points above James O'Connor in second place for the fly halves last year as well. So I think, surely he has to be up there as one of the tops. It's just clearly the little bit of a worry about concussion, which, they keep talking up is not a big worry, but that's got to be a make or break for him.
I think fantasy managers have been scarred by concussion in the last few years where some players are, say they're coming back and they don't for a long time. But look, I think we're all talking in terms of fantasy, and I know there is, for the last couple of years, there's been ongoing Richie Wanger versus Beauden Barrett discussions in the All Blacks. And I still firmly stand as Beauden Barrett is my number 10. He's the best 10 in the world as far as I'm concerned. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't think he's going to get back to that 50-point average. There's just different, even though the Blues are just as full of weapons as the Crusaders are, kind of like different roles the way they play. Like Richie, I just don't see Beauden taking it to the line the same way Richie does. Rev was talking about moments that stand, like players that stand out, and Richie Mo'unga, none more other than Richie Mo'unga. I think there's, one of the highlights they show is Richie Wanger, a kickoff to himself, regathering at the 10-meter line, and then literally stepping
out of the first
through
tackle,
half the 10. He gets to the 5-meter line himself, there's no better fantasy highlight than that. So, no, I agree. But I think all the hype around Josh Ioane is because we've seen glimpses of little bits of Richie Wanger style game from Josh Ioane. And what we're hoping is that he's given the freedom that we've come to know in the Chiefs to really kind of express himself and push that forward. So I think I'm certainly expecting huge things from Josh Ioane this year. Whether or not it's valid to say, it's going to be better than Jordy Barrett, I don't know. But
I think he's in a big battle against Bryn Gatland. From what we've seen in the trials, they're really letting him share the time. It's not a foregone conclusion that he starts. That's my worry. If he starts, I want him in my team.
Yeah,
but that's the question mark at this point of the season.
Absolutely fair. All right. Well, that takes us on to centres. And speaking of Ioanes, Rieko Ioane. So, I touched on this earlier when we named our top 3 fantasy picks, and Rev brought home Rieko Ioane. I think it was a very tough decision here between Quinn Tupaia and Rieko Ioane. Tupaia had an absolutely stellar standout year last year in fantasy, and just an absolute weapon. I think he probably won't do it as much this year, but for the Chiefs last year, he was absolutely killing it at centre, but they would also then push him out to the wing, so they would never take him off, which was awesome. And he has, the pace for wing, the power in its centre, runs these awesome lines. So he's very good. But Rieko Ioane, for mine, there just isn't a player more exciting to watch. And it will be interesting to see. Yeah, he definitely doesn't score as well at centre at 13 than he did at wing. But I think he's well and truly made 13 his position now. He's really stepped up, trying to lock that in the All Blacks. So we'll see if he can even go even further now with a little bit more experience at the 13 jersey under his belt. So he's pretty big. So him and Tupaia. Then we have David Havili, Anton Leonard-Brown, and Braden Ennor. I'm just going to read them all off. Havili's interesting one as well. Fantasy managers will know him well, starting at fullback for the Crusaders for a couple of years. Absolutely killing it. Definitely does not score anywhere like that in an inside centre. A lot more of a kind of ball-playing role, a lot less kick returns and line breaks and whatnot. So it's a tough... It's catch-22 with fantasy with Havili, but
had 27 average at centre last year. It was very average for a player that played as well as he did.
Exactly, and that's from someone who's probably had a 50-point average at fullback. So,
yeah, literally, yeah.
So that's a bit tough. And then Rev, what do you think of Anton Leonard-Brown and Braden Ennor? I think ALB is just absolutely consistent, but what do you make of them?
Yeah, ALB, I think he's someone that if I can get my hands on him, within the first 15 picks, I would. He's a really strong centre, in my opinion, just because he does all the things you really like. Really safe defensively, so that's always a nice thing. But he loves an offload, loves putting through his wing, so I think that's a nice touch. Braden Ennor, pile of dog shit. Don't think he's... oh, wait, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry. Just had a bit of static come through there. Pile of dog shit. I'll just get that a little clearer. No, he to me is someone that will benefit if he gets game time, but I don't think he's as good as Goodhue when he comes back. I don't think he's as damaging as Lester Fainga'anuku. I think he's really quick, so he's got that for him, and he relies on someone putting him in a hole. Outside of that, he's someone that has some weeks. If he has everything go his way, he does well, but he's had some really shockingly low rounds. I've had mates had him get single-digit scores when he's played the full 80. So to me, he doesn't rank as highly. But
just a man making up the numbers and the benefit of the Crusaders backline.
Yeah,
I like this. Is good. Getting some opinions from Rev.
Strong opinions.
Hey, I had to perk up for one of them. I had to get revved up for one.
How's this? The reason I think Tupaia is going to be the clear top centre, he's played for more than 60 minutes in only 5 games last year. Round 1, he only got 7 points. Other than that, when he played more than 60, his scores were 45, 75, 59, and 44. The bloke will score through the roof this year because he is starting every single week. If he doesn't have a high 40s average, I'll be shocked. Mainly because he does the the Pataya role and just throws an offload into contact every single time someone puts a hand on him. But the thing is, he's stick much more often than Pataya.
That's it. I think he's actually, you'd have to say, the closest thing to, well, despite him not offloading, but Nani Lamape, in terms of more often than not, 12s don't score particularly well. And Lamape of the minibus obviously did, one way, which was just running over absolutely everyone. And not only can Tapia seem to bump off people, I'm not sure quite in the same league of Laumape, but you're right, Harry. He is as keen for an offload as Jordan Pataya has been his whole career. So huge.
Outside backs to round us off.
Sounds good.
Rev, you're the guest, mate. Do the honours.
With the outside backs, we've touched on a few of them. Will Jordan, he just is a freak. He's, I think, the only thing we'll mention tonight that's better than Cargill's mustache. So I think Jordy, he's got his work cut out for him to try and get next to him. Jordy Barrett, he's probably next in line, for my opinion, but Will Jordan's just such a clear-cut option. So if you don't end up with him, Jordy Barrett's great, Sevu Reece is great, Ateni Nana Saturu, Celeste Rayasi, Caleb Clark. We've got sort of this rise of the sevens wingers coming through. There's really quite a lot of nice wings. And I think in previous years, there's been a lot of people pretty keen to get fullbacks just for the advantage they have of the run meters, bringing the ball back and potential breaks that come with that. But yeah, just some powerhouse wingers this year. It'll really just be a battle of who gets the most minutes, both at the Blues and Crusaders, to see who goes.
How many did you really want in your team? How many outside backs?
I had, if I pull up my list, I think I had about 7 that I was, really keen on getting.
That's hard when 24 are going to get picked.
Yeah. Actually, 7. I had all the ones just listed, but I also had Filippo Dungunu. I think without Vunivalu there for the start of the season, he sort of seems like the only outside back that's a lock at the moment for the Reds. So, and he's also a Reds player.
I was going to say, I'm sure this will make Rev happy. I'm sure you've heard it on previous podcasts, but Vunivalu would have been right up there for my outside backs. I've wanted him in my fantasy team for so long. I just think he's the type of player who's going to, top charts. No one could score tries like that man can. So
the hard thing is picking a bloke that's had a torn hamstring for 2 years now, or 18 months now. You're basically backing him to work out what the hell is wrong with his collagen. That advancement in modern science is not where I want to put my fantasy hopes.
No, that's it. Look, I made a decision. We discussed before, but I made a decision this year to not pick any injured players, just to pick entirely speculative players that might not even start.